Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts, AJ Hamilton and You Need a More Cops, Pappas.
Send more podcast hosts.
They've gotten us.
Well,
oh no!
Actually, you and I are both pretty safe because zombies only eat brains.
Only eat brains. That's
Boom!
true. Oh, we are dumb.
Suck it, you two. You've been roasted
By you.
Yeah, I guess.
That was good.
Thanks. I did my best.
No, I like those Comedy Central roasts.
Yeah.
Those are fun. I'm sure one of these days they'll call us and take the piss out of us.
Yeah,
as,
and then then we can become president.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't mean to bring us down.
No. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is
Charlie Sheen as president.
Yeah,
Hasselhoff as president.
I'd watch that.
You'd watch that?
Yes.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Hello, everybody. We are continuing. What's it? Oh, right. Sorry. And Nicholas C. Pappas.
Thank you. I just looked at AJ and pointed at myself with like a sad smile.
Excuse me?
Excuse me?
It's me.
Excuse me, sir?
I deserve a real name. And I get that. I get that.
You don't.
No. Mine's already passed. It's fine.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yes?
Are you...
AJ.
Nicholas.
Yes, Andrew James.
Are you enjoying your Zomvember?
I am, actually. I am loving my Zomvember, and I'm really sad that Zomvember comes to a close today.
That's right.
This is our last entry into Zomvember, a holdover of Shocktober.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, I almost want to next year start watching all the sequels to all of the movies we have watched.
It'll be a sequel
to
sequels.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We'll call it Sequelception. Or Sequesception.
That's something else.
Yeah, Sequesception. I don't know what it sounds like I'm trying to say, but whatever it is, I'm saying it wrong.
It's like looking for a low quality soda, like an off-brand soda. Schweppes. Seeking
Sweetception. Sequesception.
That's right.
Or it looks like or
yes,
it's a mouse inside of a mouse.
Squeak.
Squeakception.
I love your brain,
yeah,
man.
I do my best.
Brains. Exactly.
Well, that was a good wraparound to us talking about the last movie, Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, my goodness.
1985's Return of the Living Dead.
Man.
This was a fun one.
I'm so glad we saw this, and I'm so glad we saw it the way we did.
Yes. So we were originally planning on Zomvember, sorry.
Oh, come
Shocktober and Zomvember.
That's right.
To end last week with our zombie episode.
Yes.
But then we found out that the new Beverly Cinema, which is Quentin Tarantino Cinema.
That's right.
On Halloween was holding a Clu Gulager retrospective kind of a thing where they were showing Uninvited, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, and then Return of the Living Dead. And we thought to ourselves, you know what? We should go see that.
Yeah.
I've seen Return of the Living Dead numerous times.
Same.
I had never seen it in theaters.
Yeah.
I've seen Nightmare on Elm Street 2 a couple of times. Never seen it in theaters.
Yes.
And I had never seen Uninvited, which...
pure genius.
Well, maybe we can do just like a quick little thing on like Uninvited was one of the most... You might have a different experience of this movie. Uninvited was a movie from the 80s, late 80s, a low-budget horror movie. Vinegar Syndrome has a Blu-ray out on it.
Great.
Co-starring George Kennedy and Clu Gulager, and it was about a cat who has
a mutant
mutation
little cat
or a bat living inside of it.
I don't know what it is.
That gets caught on a yacht and wreaks havoc on the yacht. And it like launched itself into one of my favorite theatrical experiences of all time. It was insane.
Yep.
It was crazy.
Yes.
And the audience went fucking wild for it at
they
noon
loved it.
on Halloween.
Yes. I mean, you go to the New Beverly on Halloween, that is your audience.
Yes.
That they knew who would be there and what they would love. Oh. And a mutant crazy cat on a yacht with some hot chicks and some crazy dudes.
I cannot recommend that movie enough. Know that it's not a good movie.
No.
I mean, when I say, I should also say too, like, it probably launches itself up onto one of my favorite bad movies of all time list.
Right.
Just the swings in emotion are brilliant.
Yeah.
And then A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 has to be the most insane sequel I've ever seen in my entire life to a horror movie.
You know what? It's so disappointing. Like, there's so few kills in it. Like, spooky original kills.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The other thing about this movie is that, like, Freddy comes out of dreams and kills people in real life.
Yeah.
And it's the only Nightmare on Elm Street that does that.
Completely breaks the rules.
Completely breaks the rules of part one.
Yep.
And I was reading a little bit about it, and apparently that was the hardest one for Robert Englund to film because he was like, I don't know how to play this character in real life. He's supposed to be a dream figure.
Yeah.
And then I also read this really interesting thing where they thought that he was unimportant as an actor.
Damn.
And they had hired just a random extra to play Freddy.
What?
And after, like, filming for a week, they realized that they were really fucking wrong.
Yep.
And they needed Robert Englund to come back.
Like, nothing against, like, Jason or Michael Myers, but those guys, sadly, they're not known for their personalities.
Yeah, well, and they're also not known for their faces.
No, exactly.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
But Robert Englund was always Freddy.
Yeah, you couldn't get by with anything else.
I mean, I don't know why they tried to remake it. I mean,
so weird.
It was very weird.
It was the most homoerotic horror film I have ever seen in my entire life. And actually, we were talking about it after the movie. I mean, this is like right in the middle of like Reagan America. Mm-hmm. This is before the AIDS epidemics, just before.
Okay.
And, well, I'm sure it was at that point being talked about.
Of course.
In circles.
Sure.
Not necessarily, it wasn't like in the national conversation. But I had read that all of the homosexual overtones / undertones were purposeful by the screenwriter.
Really?
Yeah, and the story that the screenwriter was trying to tell was a young boy coming to terms with his homosexuality.
Wow.
And again, this is the early 80s, the quote-unquote deviant behavior found within. So it was definitely a homophobic
interesting
spin on coming out.
Yeah.
And coming to grips with who you are. But that's an interesting, if you've never seen A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
At least once, if not for the scary baby-headed dog section.
Oh my god. That was out of nowhere.
Yeah. And scary might be the wrong word, but it was disturbing.
Yeah.
And then the last movie of the day, which is so Uninvited was a real winner.
Right.
For all the wrong reasons. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was what it was.
Yes.
But the real winner in terms of quality is Return of the Living Dead, directed by Dan O'Bannon.
Hell yeah.
Who really only directed The Resurrected, other than Return of the Living Dead.
Right. But he was more of a writer.
He was definitely more of a writer. He did Dark Star, which was John Carpenter's first film ever.
Cool.
They were at USC together, made the movie. From Dark Star, there is a section in the movie where there is a beach ball who is an alien who attacks Dan O'Bannon's character. And you can see directly how he took that premise and plopped it into this other little movie called Alien, directed by Ridley Scott.
Wow.
And created one of the most popular films of all time. He also did Total Recall.
Nice.
The Schwarzenegger movie.
Yep.
And then one of many canon connections, Dan O'Bannon wrote Invaders from Mars and Life Force.
Life Force.
Which are both canon films directed by Tobe Hooper.
One of our favorites, and we will do it soon.
Yes, definitely. And then Tobe Hooper was supposed to direct this movie.
Oh.
But at this time, he probably would have been directing Invaders from Mars or Life Force.
Right.
So,
interesting.
Probably why he didn't. So,
what a shame.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see what his take on this would have been. What flavor he would have brought to this.
Yeah, that's actually really fascinating. Tobe Hooper is such an interesting director. actor for many reasons. Like, I think he gets comedy really well with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh, sure.
Which would have been around the same time as this, which tonally, I think would have fit.
Yes, definitely.
But in a way, I'm glad that Dan O'Bannon really got his one directorial mark.
I am too.
Because he's such an important figure in, I think, nerd cinema.
Yes.
It was just really, I'm just happy he got his one directorial mark.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, you fucking wrote Total Recall, you fucking wrote Alien.
Yeah.
And you wrote Life Force. And of course this movie.
Yes.
You know, that if you did one of those movies, that'd be a winning career, let alone all of those movies.
Yeah, he's a fixture in the sci-fi and spooky genre.
Spooky genre. My oh my. So that's how we saw it. That's the context of how we saw it.
Indeed. Now, give us a context of what the movie is all about.
All right.
So, I mean, I don't know if this is... Would you think that this is more ubiquitous or less than Night of the Living Dead?
Oh, less.
Yeah.
I think this is
I suppose so.
One of those movies where...
Sadly.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. It is... I don't think this has quite reached the classic...
Right.
...that Night and Dawn reached. And on top of that, I think it's wrongly called a horror movie.
That's a good point.
When in reality, it's a comedy.
It's very hard to classify it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a little harder. And I mean,
harder to, at least.
I remember when I was a little kid going to Blockbuster and video stores and seeing this movie on the shelf, and it terrified me. It looked scary to me because the cover art is very 80s, but it's like 80s zombies.
Yeah.
Very punk rock.
Yeah.
Which
is also scary.
Well, when you're... Yeah,
I mean, when you're
like,
a nerd.
Yeah, when you're a nerd and when you're like 7.
Like, I'm not going to fit in.
Scary stuff.
Rebellion.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a comedy. I mean, that's one thing that we should mention from the top.
Yeah.
This is a comedy.
Yeah.
And it is fucking hysterical, in my opinion.
I think I agree. I echo that opinion. Before we get into it, let's tell the folks at home
what it is. We should make a quick mention that this story, the script was by Dan O'Bannon, but the story was by Rudy Weeke, who did The Booby Hatch and There's Always Vanilla, which were both George Romero films.
Okay.
John Russo, who wrote the original Night of the Living Dead with Romero, and he also worked on The Booby Hatch, and Russell Streiner, who played the original Johnny in Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
So this does have a connection to the original movies, just to throw that out there.
Very cool.
Okay. When 2 medical supply warehouse workers open an army drum full of 2,4,5 trioxin, they unleash a zombie apocalypse on the small town of Louisville, Kentucky. Based on a true story.
Based on a true story.
Which you gotta love that its opening credit is this film is based on a true story. 'Cause fuck.
Man.
It's
bonkers.
Good. It's so good.
So fun. You know, this movie really has a place in my heart because I remember watching it when I was maybe too young for it. But it was one of those things on like HBO when you got HBO free for a weekend or something
you just
like
watch
that.
Everything you can.
Absolutely. And also watch the spooky stuff or the not
naughty
safe
stuff.
For work stuff at like midnight or something.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing
Skinamax starts.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there is one small section of this movie that would be classified as that.
Yeah, well, the horror Scream Queen maven, Leona Quigley, who plays Trash, also Night of the Demon, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Graduation Day, Tourist Trap, Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl-O-Rama, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Fun.
Has definitely her nude sequence.
Yes, indeed. She has a
long nude sequence. That made it sound probably really gross, or I was being gross. It's actually very funny how she...
Yeah.
Do you remember how she starts the sequence?
Telling them how she wants to be killed?
Or how she's afraid, how she feels like she might be killed.
Oh, she has nightmares about how
yes.
The
premonition of her own death, which is like, how you ever feel like you're just in the middle of, and all these men come up and rip your skin apart.
Eating it off, yes.
And she, like, rips her clothes off, and someone just goes, hey, bring a light over here. Trash is getting naked again. Which is then eventually what happens to her character as she's trying to walk through this field, and all these zombies come and
out of the
rip
graves.
her apart.
Yeah, exactly.
As she's nude.
Yep. Great wraparound.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where, like, I think Dan O'Bannon was a little ahead of the curve understanding how gross men can be.
Yeah, there it is.
And playing right into that. Fuck.
But also, I really think that there is a lot of things in this movie that, as much as it is pretty straightforward, I think he sets up a lot of things that pay off really well. I think the not circular nature, but connective nature of the beginning and the end of the movie are very well done. I think one of the most fascinating bits of this movie is the introduction of the general.
That's one of my favorite lines in this movie.
Yeah.
So, please
So there's this, out of context, you would be completely confused, because it starts out with these two characters in a warehouse, and we also know that there's these characters who are punks that are just going out for a fun night.
Well, they're waiting for Freddy to get off work.
Who is one of the workers.
One of the workers at the medical supply warehouse.
That's right. And so we're following these two stories, essentially, that split off and break off and everything. But within the first act, there's this scene where it cuts to, what is it, San Diego or something?
Something like that.
Somewhere on the coast, and this guy goes to his mansion home, and he's a general or someone in the military. And he goes home, and he goes in and he checks on this big, huge computer that he has in his living room.
Before that, what he does is he comes in and he sees his wife. He gives her a kiss.
Oh, God, yes.
And he goes, what's for dinner?
What's for dinner?
And she goes,
lamb chops.
Your favorites.
Yep.
And he goes, I had them for lunch. And he walks out of the room to her being like, oh, darn it.
Darn it.
And then he goes to his computer.
And then he goes to his computer and checks on it, and he says, I think he calls someone and says, no update, or we still can't find it.
Right?
Something like that. And then he's not visited again until the end of the movie. I thought that was such an interesting and daring thing to do, because as much as we understand that I think you talked about it in the plot, that the canisters that release the zombie
trioxin 245
exactly,
or 245 trioxin,
that's right, are military grade and therefore may be connected to this scene. It doesn't really come into your mind actively until the climax of the movie, and that's such a cool moment in this movie, a cool, like, sort of mystery for the mind to be working on while you're watching the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and it's just a fun lead-in, and when it comes around again, I think it is, by that time you're like, oh shit, that's right.
Yeah,
so it's surprising in that way.
Yeah.
I do love that on the medical barrels of trioxin, it's like, if found, call the army, and there's a phone number on there. And so what happens is Freddy, played by Tom Matthews, who, we got another canon connection.
Nice.
In addition to being in Return of the Living Dead 2 and Friday the 13th Part 6,
yes,
he was Charmin in Alien from L.A.
He was so charming.
He was he was my Prince Charmin.
What a weird movie that was.
Whoa.
Go back
listen
to that episode.
Fuck.
And also watch the movie, or not. Yeah.
Either way. Well, Freddy, and Frank, played by James Karen, is one of those guys where he's been in like a billion things. You'll know him if you see him. Yeah. Poltergeist, Mulholland Drive, The Jazz Singer.
Nice.
To name a few. James is like the old guy who's been working at this medical supply warehouse called
You Need a Medical Supply.
And he's just showing them around being like, oh yeah, we got these skulls, we got body parts in here, we got a human cadaver.
Right.
We got half dogs.
The half dog was always so
weird.
Odd. And the payoff is great too.
So good.
But also he talks about the hanging skeletons that they import from India.
Male and female. How can I tell?
I thought in our research, we found that about a month after the movie came out, the exporting of skeletons from India was ceased.
Ah, so India ceased it.
Yes, correct.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah, it might have been, they don't know if it was coincidence, but it was, interesting connection. Yeah, interesting timing.
That line, I think in our research too, Toby Hooper, that India line, that was his.
Yeah, he suggested it. Yeah.
But yeah, long story short, at this point, Frank says to Freddy, "Hey, you want to see something really cool? You know that movie, Night of the Living Dead? Well, it's not just a movie; it's real. Those were real things, and that's what happens. Like it really happened.
No, that's crazy, man.
Like, I got some barrels downstairs. Do you want to see?" And they go downstairs, and there's barrels that have been sitting there for like 17 years.
Yeah.
Of just bodies in tanks and like these drums.
And if you open up the top, you can see the faces through a glass window.
And at some point, one of them bangs on the side of the drum, which breaks the drum and releases the gas.
Yes.
SpaghettiOs.
Yo, that's a bad thing.
That's a bad thing.
And you know what was really cool was I loved that effect that they did of the zombie melting within the canister.
Very Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque.
Ooh, yes. Very much so.
Tell us how they did that, because I think that is actually like one of those like super cool things that it would be a $10 million effect today.
Right, with 100 animators on it.
I mean,
but apparently it was just layered wax on a skull, and they just turned up the heat within the
drum.
The drum.
Fuck yeah.
And funny enough, the crack in the glass, unintentional. Isn't that a fun, happy accident?
You know,
I just love that shit when that happens.
That's the kind of thing where, like, I wish more filmmakers would do practical effects like that, because
100%.
There's no way that somebody would think to do that cracking of the glass thing,
right,
with animation,
right,
or
and
visual
the timing
effects
of it is just so cool. Because you know what's interesting is the human imagination is vast, absolutely, depending on who you are, but there are certain things that the human imagination cannot necessarily come up with in prep for a movie. Even on the day, you couldn't say, well, then how do we do that?
Yeah.
You know,
it just sort of does.
Just fucking happens.
And it is a really cool effect, because all of a sudden those eyes, like those, well, I mean, I guess it's the wax melting, but like it feels like those eyes open and look up at us as the thing is cracking.
Exactly.
And like the timing of it is like, ooh. Well,
it's capturing natural stuff, you know?
Yeah. One of the other things I really loved about this movie, and I know we're going to end up skipping around a lot here, so I'm so sorry, listener.
That's cool.
We weren't able to take notes in the theater.
Right, because we didn't want to be
those people.
Assholes.
So we're a little less organized than usual.
Sure.
As far as, like, our notes. So we'll probably do a lot of skipping around into, like, favorite parts.
Oh, hell yeah.
But one of the things I really, really loved was, because they had already mentioned that this was based on real life and Night of the Living Dead, I loved when they started to use the rules of Night of the Living Dead and it not working.
And then breaking them. Yes, exactly.
That was so much fun. Like when so when they come back upstairs into the medical supply place, both Freddy and Frank have passed out from the gas.
From the gas inhalation, and the gas has spread not only into their lungs, but all throughout the warehouse.
Yes, it's all over the warehouse.
Yeah.
So when they get upstairs, like, they hear, like, a barking sound. They're trying to figure out where that is, and they go and they find, like, those little half dogs are barking. Which is so sad.
It's so sad, and that's the interesting thing about walking that line of horror and comedy.
Yeah.
Because it's, at one end, hilarious, but also imagining the implication of that, of what else might be coming back to life, or
the butterflies that are pinned to
the
like
the board. Yeah.
Did you ever see Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
I did. Yeah.
That's another one of those movies that is a horror comedy. It's, to me, absolutely fucking hysterical.
Well, they do both well.
Right, they do horror and both of these movies, actually, because the horror is done really well on this.
Yes.
But one of the things that is funny and fascinating to me about that movie is when you watch it like a second time, you sort of like start thinking about it, you're like, well, these are just like a bunch of like innocent kids dying in horribly tragic ways that we as an audience are like laughing our asses off at.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a whole other story. But anyways,
that's a story about us.
That's a story about us. Yikes. But what was I saying? Oh, the rules that did not work. Oh, when they come upstairs.
Yes.
When they come upstairs, they hear the corpse that they talked about earlier
in the meat freezer.
In the meat freezer, who I'm going to call Yellow Man because he was sort of jaundiced.
He's very much, yes.
And they end up calling in Bert, who owns the place, who owns You Need a Medical Supply.
Played by
that is Clu
our star
himself,
Clu Gulager.
We should mention he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
He was the bookstore owner that Sharon Tate buys
That's
Tesla
right.
de Uberville from.
And side mention about him, he is apparently a huge fan of the New Beverly.
Yeah, he actually had his own seats for a while until he got too old to go.
Sure.
But he had at one point went like every single night for like for over a decade.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and him and like Quentin became friends through there, and that's how, of course, he ended up in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right.
It's just
So
from
cool.
that. And actually, really an interesting thing, too, is The Virginian, which was a show where Clu Gulager played, I think, Billy the Kid on. It was a TV series. That was heavily influenced Bounty Law, which was the fictional TV show that Rick Dalton was on in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So, like,
Fascinating.
yet again, like, those connections just keep wrapping around itself. But anyways...
And funny enough, arguably... Clu is our protagonist in this whole thing because
him and like Freddy.
Freddy, I suppose, except Freddy kind of in the third act takes a back seat in most of this, and it's fascinating. I've not seen many movies where they introduce at least one of our huge main characters in like almost the second act.
Well, he kind of comes in because, I mean, if you really
comes in maybe 20 minutes in.
He comes in at the break of first act to second act.
That's right.
Because if you really think about it, the opening of the barrel and the trioxin coming out.
And then passing out,
is the end of the first act.
Yeah.
That's the plot point change. And then the second act kind of starts with them trying to figure out what to do.
Right.
And that's when he shows up. But anyways, they're like, oh, I've seen the Night of the Living Dead movie. What you got to do is hit him in the brains.
Yes.
So they, Yellow Man comes out. They knock Yellow Man down, who, of course, is a zombie.
Yep.
They put a pickaxe through his fucking head.
Into the ground.
They
stab him into the ground. Oh.
And he just keeps going. Which I thought was interesting.
His movement was so disturbing.
Yeah. Like I was going to say the actor, but it could have been animatronic.
Could have been at that point.
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Did you see Zombieland Double Tap?
I haven't yet. No, missed opportunity. Would have been a good Halloween time.
It would have been a good Halloween. It was one of those movies that I would say, if you liked Zombieland,
yes,
Zombieland Double Tap was 100% the. I mean, like it's the same thing.
Satisfying. In the same ways.
It wasn't like it didn't change anything.
Okay.
It didn't like grow upon the story, but like. It's just more of the same thing, and I enjoyed Zombieland enough that Zombieland Double Tap was fun.
Nice. Okay.
The reason I bring it up, though, is Zombieland Double Tap, when you start thinking about, first of all, the horror comedy aspect of it.
Yes, yeah.
But then there's also zombies in the movie. You find out in the first few minutes of the movie.
Okay.
I think you even find out in the trailer. There are new zombies in the world who can't be killed with a shot to the head in the same way as all of the other zombies.
Huh.
And it just made me think that as I was watching this, I thought to myself, man, Zombieland Double Tap owes so much to Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living Dead. Interesting.
An interesting connection.
That's so cool. Another, I know that this is probably well documented and people know this already, but there's an episode of Community that is essentially based on Return of the Living Dead. They serve tainted taco meat or something to that effect at the Halloween party.
Yes.
And in fact, on the side of the taco meat is printed, if ingested, call this number.
No, and I forgot about that.
And at the end of the episode, spoilers, the military comes, erases everybody's memory, and they all are confused about what happened that night.
So good.
Which is so fun.
That is so good.
But I wouldn't doubt Dan Harmon's fandom of this movie, of course.
Of course, he has to.
Yeah, it feels like this informed his sense of humor.
So much.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're just going to skip around a bunch.
Sure.
At this point, they basically cut up Yellow Man...
into multiple pieces. And they even... Do they put the dogs in there as well?
I don't know. That's unclear.
Maybe not, yeah.
Because they cut up Yellow Man to try to kill him, and it doesn't kill him.
Nope.
And he's just in these trash bags.
Writhing around.
Which, funny enough, you know those, like, monkey with the symbol, like...
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
what's writhing around.
Is that how they did it?
They took the symbols out.
Smart as
and
hell.
then they just put the monkeys in there.
Oh, practical shit. Do it.
It's practical
more.
shit. And it looks great.
Yes.
It looks great.
Yeah, it did.
This is when we're introduced to Ernie, played by Don Calfa. Ernie is probably, for me at least, most known as the hitman in Weekend at Bernie's.
That's right.
Keeps trying to kill off Jonathan Silverman and Andrew McCarthy.
Yes. I love that actor.
Yeah, he's such an interesting guy.
We just lost him a couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah. And James Cameron we lost last year at 94.
Oh, man.
Almost to the date of when we watched this movie, October 23rd.
Oh,
2018.
wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah. But anyways,
bringing it back up.
What they do is Ernie
owns friends with
Bert for years, 25 years, and Ernie owns the mortuary next door, and they think, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to take these body parts over there, cremate them, get rid of it. After some convincing, they get Ernie to do so.
Well, that whole interaction is comedy gold.
Yeah.
First of all, everybody in the scene is just hilarious, and it's not even just slapstick or sitcom-y. You know, they are really playing the truth of the situation, which is absolutely where comedy comes from.
Yeah, but it's also unexpected.
Yes, yeah.
And you know what's also really interesting, too, is... So one of the things we'd found out in the research of this, the character of Ernie is supposed to be a... this is so terrible. An escaped Nazi from World War II, obviously World War II.
Right.
Who has come to America to live and not be charged with war crimes.
And I was blown away when I heard that.
Yeah.
That is so subtle.
Yeah.
Because you pointed a couple
throughout the movie.
What are some of the hints?
So Ernst Klottenbauer is his real name in the movie, and that's the name of a Nazi.
Right.
He listens to the German Afrika Korps march, Panzer Rolling in African Vor.
Oh.
He carries a Walter P-38. There's a picture of Ava Braun in the
on his hip, right?
Yeah, on his hip, constantly.
Fuck, man.
And he works in a crematorium.
Seems pretty comfortable there.
And then there's this point in the movie. This is actually one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Let's just put a pin right there.
Sure.
So what they do is they convince Ernie to cremate this body. They cremate the body.
Right.
Smoke starts rising. Rain starts falling on the smoke, creates like an acid rain.
Yep.
That rain lands in the graveyard right next door.
Right next door.
Which is then how all of the people in the grave are reanimated into zombies, and how zombies then start attacking the town.
That's right. I don't know if everybody has picked up on it, but the pair of men is Bert and Ernie.
Yep.
And apparently that was a mistake or an unintended
consequence.
Yeah. That's just
so
hilarious. He wasn't even thinking about it when he was writing it.
Yeah.
Dan O'Bannon.
And then all of the punks are in the graveyard.
Yes.
So this is how and where and when Trash dies.
Yes.
And there's a few more punks that we should mention. There's Spider, played by Miguel Nunez Jr.
I like him.
Yeah, he's lovely. Friday the 13th, Part 5.
Right.
Street Fighter. He was in Scooby-Doo. Leprechaun 4 in Space. Have you ever seen the Leprechaun series?
Not all of it. I think I've seen the first two.
Oh, AJ. We should start a new podcast that's in addition to this. You know what? I'm not even
going to mention it.
Leprechaun!
I know. You're welcome.
Oh, my God. There's like at least 9. We could do a 9 off. And Joanna Man. He was in Joanna Man.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We also have Tina, played by Beverly Randolph, who is Freddy's girlfriend.
Right.
We've got Chuck, who's played by John Philbin. Mm-hmm. These are all the punks. We've got Casey, who's played by Jules Shepard. We have Scuzz, played by Brian Peck, who, another canon connection.
Yes.
He was
Victor
in the last American version.
The nerd.
Of course, there's Trash, and then there is Suicide. And Suicide has one of my favorite lines in the entire movie where, I mean, he is a punk to the most punk-esque punk.
He is living his best Sid Vicious.
He's got, like, the chain that goes from his nose to his ear and, like...
And then down to his wallet.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. Like, Liberty Spikes and everything else. First of all, he gets angry because they call him for a ride, and he's like, "You only want to hang out with me from my car," which is, of course, a really shitty, beat-up convertible with like spray paint all over it and everything. It looks like one of those cars that in Mad Max or like Escape from New York.
Yeah.
That would just be sitting on the street that can't drive. But yet it's drivable. Mm-hmm. But then there's a moment where he's sitting in the graveyard and he's like, man, people really like look at me and they think I'm just trying to dress like this or act like this. But
This is me.
This is me. It's like a way of life. Like, and just people don't understand that, man.
So emo.
And he's like half crying, and it's this like existential crisis of who he is.
And then Trash comes up next to him and like tries to comfort him.
And he's like, hey, get off! And that's when she starts dancing. So fun. A lot of the jokes with the punks are hysterical.
Yeah,
So anyways, the
zombies are coming after those guys.
And they run to
the medical supply place.
Some of them, yes, they run to the medical supply place.
Yep.
And that's where we meet Tarman, who is like the...
I mean, that's
the quintessential zombie of this movie. Yeah. And everything Tarman does is really funny. And this is also the first time zombies talk. Because Tarman sees them and goes, brains? And
that's his movement. And
so good.
We found out that the man, the actor and puppeteer of Tarman, Alan Troutman.
Troutman?
Tarman. Ooh. He worked with Jim Henson on the Muppets. And
amazing.
It's so funny because you can absolutely tell.
When you say that.
I mean, if you're an appreciator of any Muppet or any puppeteering, there is surprisingly a language or physical language that puppeteers have.
Yeah.
And you can recognize it. And the movement of the shoulders and the arms and the face and the eyes opening up with the mouth and stuff. It's so cool.
It's cool, and it's actually really, I mean, it's just fun. Mm-hmm. It's just a fun character. Mm-hmm. It's surprising when he goes, brains? And he actually splits Suicide's head open and starts eating Suicide.
Yummy, yummy.
And then a bunch of other people walk in, and he looks at them with such shock and awe, and he's like, oh, more brains? Which is just, again, it's so fun.
It's weirdly charming.
Yeah, like that's the thing that is actually fascinating about it. Charming is a great word. But anyways,
yes.
At this point, they freak out because there's a zombie there.
Right.
So the punks then run from the graveyard to You Need a Medical Supply, where they run into Tarman.
Yep.
And then Tarman, is he Jewish?
Tarman. Dan Tarman. Tarman.
I can't unhear it now.
This is where we add the laugh track.
Yeah. So the punks, after running into Tarman, then run over to the morgue.
Yes.
They get inside. Half of them get inside.
Right.
And they start boarding up everything with all of the guys who work there.
Yeah.
With Ernie and Bert.
And all of this time, Freddie and Frank, their health has been declining.
Yes. Oh,
mysteriously.
We actually forgot to mention one of my favorite parts of the movie is when they call the paramedics and the paramedics come. And the paramedics are like, all right. Poisoning? What kind of poisoning? Like, we don't know. And they're like, okay, let's check them out. And they're like, they do all these tests and they like keep looking at each other.
You want to switch?
You want to switch? And then they switch. And they're like, come over here. And they like walk over and they like confer. And Freddie and Frank are like, what's going on? What's wrong? And they're like, well, you have no pulse. And no heartbeat.
You appear to be dead.
No, they don't actually say that.
Yeah.
Because they're like, no pulse, no heartbeat. Does that mean we're dead? And they're like, no. We didn't say dead.
That's
say dead.
Right.
We cannot say dead. We were just paramedics.
And clearly you're speaking, so you must... and
then they like take temperature and they're like, 70 degrees. Okay.
Room temperature.
Is that bad? No, not necessarily. It's just a really great exchange.
Everybody in this movie feels so natural.
Yes.
Nobody is... I mean, if they're overplaying it, like Suicide even, I get in that world. You know?
Yeah, well, I think that's actually... It's weird because characters are either like overplaying or underplaying.
Right.
Which adds to the comedy in a perfect way.
And it balances each other out.
And it totally balances each other out. So I just wanted to talk about those two paramedics who were great.
They're fascinating.
They go out and then they get murdered immediately by the zombies.
And that's also when another zombie
Walks.
speaks in probably the oddest jokes in this movie. Like, most everything else comes from a real place.
Yeah.
But there are two instances where zombies go to the radio of both the
ham radio, or not the CB radio.
The CB radio of the paramedic van. They say...
It's called an ambulance. That's the word.
Paramedic van. No, I like that one better. I don't know why they call it an ambulance. You don't know what you're getting.
Paramedic van.
But they're talking. The zombie picks up the CB radio and says, "Send more paramedics."
And then eventually,
send more paramedics.
More paramedics come. Zombies attack them. Then cops come
because
they can't find the paramedics.
Right.
They attack the cops, and then the zombie goes, "Send more cops," which I think is so funny.
Which is great because we also learn later on when we get the half zombie.
Well, this is where I wanted to get to.
Yes.
So now they're boarding stuff up. Mm-hmm. The punks are in there. Everyone's together finally, all of our main characters. One of the boards follows through, and there's like a zombie like coming in, and like just a withered, decrepit old woman who looks to be have been dead for years and years and years.
Her skin is green of the little skin that she has left.
Mummified.
Mummified, yes.
And they can't push her back out, so Ernie grabs her and yanks her in and rips her in half.
Yep.
In order to do that, and they bring this zombie to
an operating table.
Not the operating, the embalming table.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Ties it down, and it's like trying to snap at them, and they have this conversation. You know what? Do you want to just like let's act this conversation?
Oh my God, yes.
Do you want to be the half woman corpse, or do you want to be Ernie?
I want to be the half-woman corpse.
Okay, so then I'm Ernie. All right. They tie her down.
Yeah.
Ernie says, "You can hear me?"
Yes.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
Brains only?
Yes.
Why?
The pain.
What about the pain?
The pain of being dead.
It hurts to be dead?
I can feel myself rot.
Eating brains? How does that make you feel?
It makes the pain go away.
You're going to put that on your reel, aren't you?
It's already there. A.J. Hamilton.
This is one of those kinds of conversations in a movie like this that feels profound.
Oh, yes.
In a way that I can't even describe because, being dead would hurt.
Being dead would hurt. Being brought back to life forcefully.
Would hurt.
Yes.
And I also like the fact that, in a way, we get a reason why, of all things, zombies go after brains.
Yeah.
And then
there's no explanation further than that. They just know that brains are a painkiller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which in every other zombie movie when zombies go after brains, there's no reason for it.
Nope, they just they have an insatiable
bloodthirst.
Bloodthirst, yeah.
Brain thirst?
Brain thirst, sure.
The other thing that's really interesting about this moment, and this is the thing that we put a pin in earlier with the character of Ernie.
Right.
The other hint that he is a Nazi is when he seems surprised and ashamed when he learns that dead people can feel pain.
Yeah.
Considering what he has done and what he does.
Well, and oddly, he finds this out in essentially a crematorium sort of on an operating table where, famously, Nazis would torture people in that in a medical situation. Yeah. Spooky as hell.
It's one of those moments where and I think this is what Dan O'Bannon does really well, and I think this is what any kind of horror comedy does really well, is we obviously have the comedy throughout.
Right.
But then it just drops into a moment like this that is chilling and horrible in a way that is shocking, surprising, unexpected, and it just adds to the whole experience.
Well, it adds a weight to something that has, up until that point, seemed I hesitate to even say the word frivolous.
Right.
But it is lighthearted and...
There's no stakes to death
exactly.
in the same way.
Yeah, we don't understand. We think, as this is 1985, there have been multiple zombie movies before this where you've seen one zombie movie, you've seen them all. Yeah. And to see this not only breaking the rules, like we said before, where they are basically unkillable, but also to bring, ironically, some humanity to the dead.
Yeah. It's,
it's
weirdly, I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but like beautiful.
I mean, having empathy for the hordes.
Yes.
Even for a moment, even though afterwards they essentially all become enemies of our survivors. Yeah. They just become the obstacle to them surviving.
Right.
They go back to that. It does bring us into, at least if we have some empathy for any of them, it makes it more complicated of a story.
Yeah. To keep going with the complications of the story, one thing that I really loved about this movie is the relationship between Bert, Frank, and Ernie.
Yeah.
Just like these three older guys, and they all sort of have like a love to them for each other that is really fascinating.
A brotherhood.
Sort of. So it's especially difficult when Frank, because what ends up happening is Frank and Freddy both turn into zombies.
Yep.
Freddy, as a zombie, starts chasing his girlfriend around and tries to eat her brains and kill her.
Yep.
To which then Ernie saves her by going up into the attic of the mortuary. At the same time, Frank, as a zombie...
Yep. Well, he's sort of left alone at that point.
Yeah, what ends up happening is the rest of the punks who are surviving and Bert go back to the warehouse so they could call the number on the drum to let the army know what's going on so they can, like...
Save them!
Save us!
Yeah, because also, at the same time, as with the attacks on the cops and the paramedics, we have realized through the visual storytelling that the zombies are spreading out from that center area.
It's slowly spreading
out
into the
streets and to the
But what ends up happening is, so Frank's left alone, walks into the crematorium area. He gets on his knees. He prays. He takes his ring off his finger, hangs it up next to his wedding ring, I should say.
Yes.
On like a little hook that's next to the incinerator.
Yeah. He
crawls inside the incinerator. He turns it on and he slams the door shut. And it is both the first time I saw it, it made me well up.
Yeah.
And nearly cry.
Yeah.
And I'd seen it a few times since, and I always found it like moving, but maybe not like tear-inducing.
Yeah.
It's probably been 5 or 6 years since I'd seen this before we saw it again recently.
Right.
And in that theater, I cried. It was something really sad and beautiful and kind and loving and friendship, and I don't know. It was interesting.
It's a self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
But also with the realization that they get from half-woman zombie.
Yep.
I mean, he is clearly
in
pain and knows that there is an eternity of pain to come. And so to sacrifice himself from attacking anybody else that he cares about and from suffering for the rest of his unlife, it was necessary.
Yeah. It was just a lovely moment.
Yeah.
At this point, they're back in the you need a medical supply.
Yes.
Bert makes the phone call to the army.
And guess who picks up on the other end?
That general.
Mr. General guy.
From the early, who loves lamb chops but had them for lunch.
He's not going to have them again.
There's this great moment where they have this whole conversation about, like, we found your drums. Why didn't you tell us earlier? They hang up the phone and... one of the punks says to Bert, like, something to the effect of, like, says, what's going on? And Bert says, they've got a contingency plan. And the punk goes, what's the plan? And then you hear, boom!
And there are a few freeze frames of exactly where they were when the nuclear bomb was dropped.
Yep.
Kaboom.
Kaboom.
And those are such striking images. Like, Freddy is breaking into the attic right at that moment.
About to kill Tina and Ernie.
That's right. And I don't remember what the other guys were doing.
They were just all like huddled together.
Huddle. Oh, that's right. The zombies were coming in from the outside.
Yep.
They were breaking through the doors or the wood that they had put up to defend themselves.
I mean, I remember but the first time I saw that, I was like, what? That's the end? What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Where you think that there's going to be a final girl. There's going to be somebody left over.
Everyone dies.
Nope.
But then there's this really great moment where after that bomb goes off and you can see the mushroom cloud going up.
Yeah.
Someone goes, well, what are we going to do about the
fallout?
The fallout. And then someone else goes, it's okay, it's about to rain. And you hear the rain start, and you just know that rain is going to...
And then they duplicate the exact shots that they did over the graveyard that they had done at the beginning when the
zombies
rain was coming through first time.
Well, this is one of the weird things about this movie, is its credit sequence was over the funniest parts of the movie.
Yeah! What the fuck?
Just like... the one-liners of all the funny parts.
That's right. I think it's interesting. I mean, if we're going to put any more meaning on a zombie comedy than zombie than we already have, it's almost of the military complex of that. No, I mean, really.
No, yeah.
Where you have some sort of horrible thing happen that is, I suppose, assume that what was it? Tricycline B or whatever?
2,4,5 trioxin.
Trioxin. Having that be possibly military from before, having the screw up be theirs, and having the solution of a nuclear blast be theirs as well, and so on and so on. And
well,
so
also,
it almost feels like a repetition of how futile it is.
Yeah. And also, too, the very literal fact that there's an acid rain.
Yes. Yeah.
Which in the 80s, in 1980, Congress passed something called the Acid Disposition Act, which was to try to stop contributing to the acid rain problem.
Sure.
It was a thing in the national conversation, from all the way up, all the way through the 90s.
Sure.
Through the 80s, that was definitely
the smog that was affecting just the place where we live now.
Yes.
Was horrid.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
So it's interesting too that they sort of bring in those kinds of things as well, like environmentalism.
Right.
And it's a really good thing that we have all environmental problems solved today, AJ.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got the cleanest air.
Yep.
We've got the cleanest water. You know what we should do? Just sometimes things are too clean.
Yeah.
Right? You just got to scuff them up, maybe add a little mercury in there for flavor.
Well, I was just thinking about how it's nice that the climate is stable.
Yeah.
Nothing is warming or changing in any way, shape, or form. Anyways.
Yep.
Before I actually get very angry,
you could.
I'm just gonna say, in case it wasn't clear, this was a cannon fodder episode. This was not a canon film, but. Again, it goes to the Zombember. We found some canon connections. Tagline for this movie is, "They're back from the grave and ready to party."
Ooh.
Which I thought was fun. The budget was $4 million.
Wow.
The movie grossed $14.2 million.
I think it should have been more.
I think it should have been more, too. Although, $4 million, every single penny of that was on the screen.
Yeah.
It spawned 2 sequels pretty quickly afterwards. With very similar plots.
Okay.
And then it spawned a part 4 and a part 5. 15 years after those two sequels.
I bet they're great.
The sequels are fun.
Yeah.
The other 2 sequels, like the original part 2 and part 3 are fun.
Yeah.
Part 4 and part 5 are
Asylum level.
Well, I haven't seen them, but I watched some clips, and they look like trash.
Yeah.
So,
they look like the woman who played Trash in this?
Yes, they look like Lena Quigley.
That's neat.
Yeah. So, I feel like...
Yeah.
Can I go first on what we would steal from this movie?
I would appreciate that you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I mean, honestly,
Agreed.
This movie is so good. There's not a lot where I would be like, I wish they didn't do that.
It's absolutely streamlined.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's really wonderful. It's funny. They do so many things right. If you are a fan of comedy, if you are a fan of horror, if you're a fan of zombies...
There's never a dull moment in it.
No, and it's speedy. Mm-hmm. It's like 95 minutes or
so, about that.
And it feels like it's 45 minutes.
It really does.
This was at the end of a triple feature, and I could not think of a better way to end a triple feature for us than something like this that felt so fast. Like, could you imagine if A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was the last movie we watched?
No.
It would have been hard to get
They middled that correctly.
Yes, they did. So yeah.
And I wouldn't have spent Halloween any differently either.
No,
that was
such a good Halloween.
We actually it was me and Nick and one of our previous guests, Sean.
Yeah.
So that was really really quite a pleasure to and if you get a chance to, if you have a local theater and it does anything like this on Halloween, it's such a fun way to spend at least part of your Halloween.
Yeah, well, there's nothing like a revival house.
Definitely.
And seeing movies that are things... I mean, look...
Gems from the past.
Gems from the past. Like, if I watched The Uninvited by myself, I probably would have enjoyed it. I probably would have laughed. But, like, watching that with an audience was an incredible experience. And even you who does not like those kinds of things, I think you would have to admit that it was a great experience.
I had a hell of a time. I enjoyed it like hell. Absolutely. Also, just to be clear, it's called Uninvited, not The Uninvited.
Yeah, because The Uninvited was a 2009 horror movie about sisters on a dock starring Emily Browning, who was in... what was she in Lemony? The Series of Unfortunate Events, the original one with Jim Carrey.
And she's actually in American Gods.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
She was also in Sucker Punch.
That's right.
And Sleeping Beauty. So
and also the lovely Elizabeth Banks.
I didn't remember that.
She's the aunt or something like that.
Wow.
Or I don't know. I don't remember.
I think she was the evil stepmom.
Stepmom. Yeah. Exactly. But no, I agree. Spending time with you, I think, first of all, is probably a bad thing. Probably negative for my life.
Why? I don't understand.
But it is... I am getting a whole different appreciation for, I guess, schlocky or B-level, C-level, Z-level... films.
You're starting to like them now?
I am starting to like them and starting to see the value in them because...
Oh my gosh!
I mean, just like we always say about canon movies, and really this could be spread to any movie, which is kind of, I think, what we're trying to show, is that there is brilliance within all attempts. Because you tried.
Yes. Well, and in some ways there is more... Well, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
There is a different kind of brilliance...
Yes.
In these Z-C-B schlocky things. And actually, in some of the research we did for this, there's a perfect point of that. Sometimes if you don't know what you're doing, you can really create something incredible and beautiful. And when you break the rules because you don't know the rules, or that you can't afford the rules... You have to get creative. Yeah. And there is this really interesting thing that Dan O'Bannon said about directing this movie. It's almost the flip side, but I think it's also really interesting.
It's brilliant.
Do you have it pulled up?
I do. He said when Tina is walking to the warehouse on her own, and there are these long shots and top-down angles because it's funny, he felt that most horror movies film the characters up close, and he wanted to sort of change it up a bit.
Thought it was like tired and cliched,
exactly, right? That's right. And when he saw the finished product, he was like, oh shit, I wish I had gotten those shots. And he essentially figured out why, because it's claustrophobic. It's you get to see the feeling of the character. And so he learned something within the process of making this movie. And I think that's amazing because, like you said, there are some rules that as much as you'd like to break them, maybe you break it somewhere else rather than it being, just indiscriminately breaking rules without knowing them to begin with.
Totally. And it becomes its own interesting, like, quote unquote film school the more you watch these things, because you definitely learn what not to do. Right. And then you can definitely steal techniques of like, oh shit, I would have never done that. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, Robert Rodriguez,
who famously made El Mariachi for like $9. Yeah. And he was the entire crew. Yeah. writer, director, cinematographer.
Well,
everything.
He has his classic book, Rebel Without a Crew.
That's
right.
Oh, boo.
It's perfect. And he's also entitled his production company, Troublemaker Studios.
Because he himself is a troublemaker.
Indeed. But I think that there is absolutely a spirit, unless you just get into filmmaking to make money, which is good luck.
What are you saying?
You're not going to start out that way. You're not going to start out that way. There are only so many Spielbergs. There are only so many Christopher Nolans out there.
Sure.
But if you want to
Chris
stand
Nolan started with
that's
what
true.
Was it, The Following, which was probably made for like $7,000 as well.
True, and Memento and stuff. And everybody starts out as a smaller budget. Did
Spielberg do Duel early on? Which
was also, I love that movie.
It was a fucking pickup truck, not a pickup truck, a
Datsun and a guy being chased by an 18-wheeler. Yeah, you've got to put your rebel
side on.
Yeah, you've got to find your rebel voice, and see where it fits in.
I love that.
Yeah.
One thing, as we talk about going to see art house revival, and you should support these places that have, a lot of places have revival cinema theaters in, especially big cities. Mm-hmm. Also support 35mm film or 70mm.
If you got a chance.
That's the thing about New Beverly that I really love is everything shown there.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have a digital projector. They only have film projectors.
So cool.
So they have 8, 16, 35. I don't think they have a 70 yet.
Okay.
But that's awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people these days have not seen a film. A lot of younger people have not seen a film on film.
Yeah, right.
Basically. They've watched a digital on digital.
Yes.
Which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're interested in that thing, there's this really cool app that Kodak, of all places, puts out.
Oh.
Called Reel Film, REEL Film.
Okay.
And what you do is you put in your zip code, and it will give you everything playing on film stock in your area.
And we're not even getting paid to say this.
Nope. That is just a support your local movie theater
And if you're ever in LA, come to the New Beverly.
Yep. So I guess we should lean into next week?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question, Nick.
Yeah, what is that?
What are we... You already know what I'm going to ask you.
Oh. At nicholascpappas.com. You can follow me.
No.
What?
What's next week?
Oh, shit. Oh, bro. Shit.
What up? Yeah?
Sadly, our Zomvember is over.
Yes.
We are moving back to Canon Films, which actually, I don't know why I'm saying sadly.
Yeah.
I'm super excited that we're going back to Canon Films.
Both are great.
It was nice to be away for a while, but it's very nice to come back. And we are getting back to...
We took a fall vacation.
We took a little bit of a fall vacation.
Yeah.
And we are doing the Canon Classic to bring us back straight into Canon as hard as possible. American Ninja 1.
Hey-ya!
Yep, Michael Dudikoff. So...
What a dude.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
I hate myself for that.
And you just heard the laugh track.
Well, you should get it for What a Dude.
No, it's a combined laugh track for both of us.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm excited to jump back into the canon.
Yep.
Nick, where can we follow you?
So next week we're doing... Oh, wait. Sorry.
Yeah. What a fool.
Call back. NicholasCpappas.com and at NicholasCpappas on the Twitter.
Awesome. I am at the AJ Hamilton on internet places. And
Ooh, is that like a new Facebook? Internet places?
That's correct, yes. They spell...
We do not have influence here. Put your stuff. That was my really bad Russian accent.
That is very bad.
Yes, it's a very bad.
I am very disappointed.
Always sleeping to Arnold a little bit.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And then after a while, I think of what Boris would do.
Oh yes, and then Natasha. Yeah. So you can follow us.
Well, fearless leader,
Mr. Putin, and
Robert De Niro.
Oh God, yes, that's right.
Yes, that's fearless leader, not real fearless leader, who is fearful leader. Did you see him fall playing ice hockey? Anyways, do your thing. Not De Niro, Putin.
Well, you can follow us on creatingcanon at gmail.com, and you can... I don't know why... Crikey! And you can follow us on all of the things and social at Creating Canon. That's CANNON.
We have lost every listener from New Zealand and Australia.
It was a combination of both.
Yeah.
And as we say every single time on these episodes, and even in real life, it's crazy. It's kind of weird when we leave parties. We
just look at people and say, "Good night and good cannon. Send more golens
and globuses." It wasn't full blown.
Was that a joke?
I
hated all of that.
Are you sure?
I 100% did.
You want to redo it?
Yeah, we sounded like real assholes. You sound like Beetlejuice if Beetlejuice was in the middle of taking a dump.
What are you talking? Oh, yeah, I get that, actually.
I'm the midnight meat train, bitch! Compared to a pantsless elderly uncle. 2 hams with a slice of bread in the middle.
Yeah.
You slather them both with mayo. Only thing better than a pair of Gibson buns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme buns and splits. I call that the reverse banana split. And I don't think we're trying to be weirder and weirder.
No. Just more comfortable with insanity?
Bring on, kid, the ham shammy. Why do I feel like the end of the episode's going to end with, I hated all of that. We sounded like real assholes.
Well, now I have 2 takes of it.